This Getting Practical with Digital Media video follows on from my previous two videos in this series that covered excellent writing in blog posts and the need to integrate other media content, particularly visual content, to stimulate your readers' interest and enhance their understanding of what you're talking about. This video focuses on two things: embedding media content and hyperlinking. Let's start with embedding. It's important to embed media content wherever possible.
You've no doubt seen in online articles put out by the mainstream news media that embedding tweets, for instance, is becoming par for the course. It's really common. A few years ago, I actually made a Vine that showed students how to embed a tweet in a WordPress blog, and I probably didn't even need the full 6 seconds. But WordPress has now made my Vine completely redundant, because all you need to do is copy the URL of the particular tweet into your blog post, and it's automatically embedded. Of course, not all the media content you use can be embedded, and this might apply to something like a Prezi or an infographic. It's always a good idea to at least take a screenshot of what you've done so that you can put a visual representation into your blog post and then link that post to the original source. I think it's always a good idea to screen capture any tweets that you embed just in case they disappear, and you can archive these and come back to them later to insert them if needed.
Hyperlinking is also another really crucial aspect of making blog posts.
I'm going to take you through a couple of my early blog posts just to show a few examples of how hyperlinks can be used and why they might be used. The first thing is that hyperlinks make your blog more interactive. They allow you to point your readers toward potential avenues of further information that you think might be valuable to them. This blog post you're looking at here was one that I put together in 2013 to promote a public film screening series that I was convening at the time in collaboration with the Jewish Holocaust Center, and you can see that I had a hyperlink to the Jewish Holocaust Center's website. And when I've mentioned films that I convene screenings of, I've also linked that to the IMDb, just a general movie database page, so that people can follow up for a few more details about the film if they wish. Another great thing that you can do when creating hyperlinks in blog posts is to link back to a previous blog post, which obviously enhances the engagement with your blog, but also shows the evolution of your ideas. The great thing about using hyperlinks is that they make your blog post look so much more professional. It's really important to use them where appropriate. Don't overdo hyperlinks. This is another blog post, my very first blog post in fact, that I used to sort of start to get my head around some of the research I was doing on board games and gender. And I used a few hyperlinks in this post to point the reader, and the one instance, to another blog post, which was reinforcing a point that I was making. And another link was to a news story that was related directly to what I was talking about, and there was also some other links in this post to the board game pages on Board Game Geek, the main board game website, where you can find out some brief details about the products I was talking about. So again, something that readers might not necessarily follow up on, but are potentially really useful for them to do so if they wish. Of course, you've got to be quite strategic here in relation to what you choose to put a hyperlink in for, because you could find a lot of different things. Don't go out of your way to put anything in your blog post just so you have a hyperlink. That defeats the point. You don't want your need for hyperlinks, your perceived need to make your blog more interactive, to govern your content. And sometimes it's a tricky judgment call. For instance, here, do I put a hyperlink to the homepage of Twitter just because I mentioned several Twitter profiles? Well, this might depend on the context of the blog post as a whole. If I was writing a blog post that was putting forward an in-depth critique of Twitter or talking specifically about Twitter throughout the whole blog post, then maybe a link to that Twitter homepage would make sense. But because I'm just introducing the idea of having a few profiles on Twitter here, there's not really all that much point in me making a hyperlink to Twitter generally, so I'll leave that out there. It's also really important that you don't simply paste URLs into your blog posts. If you don't make active hyperlinks, you're essentially asking your reader to copy the URL, open a new tab on their own, paste the URL, and then press enter. That's quite a lot of work for someone who doesn't really have much time to be doing that kind of thing, and I'm sure you'd feel the same way if you were in their position. So make sure you make active hyperlinks. And don't make the hyperlink with the URL itself. Use a word or a phrase that neatly fits that link into your discussion. And that brings me to another really crucial point about making hyperlinks. This is one of my pet hates, and when I click on active hyperlinks that students have made, it gets increasingly annoying when they don't open in new tabs, because your browser quite often doesn't like going back to where you want it to go. Make sure that you make all hyperlinks open in new tabs. The really important reason for doing this is that you don't want your blog post to be left in the past. You want your audience to be able to go back to it and to still have it open in their browser. That's your work, and you want that to be available to them in every way possible. And while I feel like I should say I don't want to overstate this, I actually think I should, because when you start to interact with other people's blogs and clicking on links, you'll find that it is really annoying to have to click backwards and backtrack to where you need to be. This is my reaction when I first click on a link that does not open in a new page. This is the second time. Number 3. Number 4.
Come on.
And this is the 5th time.
Well, that's it.
Make sure all your links open in new tabs. It sounds simple. It is simple. Just do it.